welcome to the Big Picture Film Club. My name's Presh Williams. Our guest today is a writer, actor, and part of an award-winning podcast and psychiatrist who's recently featured on Channel 4's NHS Heroes Fighting to Save Our Lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Parvinder Shergill. Welcome to Big Picture Film Club. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on such a nice evening. Inside.
I actually wanted to start with, I guess, a non-film related question, and it's kind of more in relation to your kind of background as a psychiatrist, and I guess from your kind of clinical perspective, and kind of following on from filming Channel 4's NHS Heroes. It's like, how do you feel from your kind of perspective? People have been dealing with the current pandemic.
So, I mean, it's such a weird time, I think, just generally for everybody. And I think it's really hard to reflect whilst we're still in it. I mean, certainly from the doctor's side, we have a polite way to say we're quite angry because, we've not had PPE, like I've not had it. Lots of us have gone off sick. I had COVID. We've not been able to get tested very easily. I've still not got, I didn't get tested. I couldn't get tested. And there doesn't seem to be much support from the higher beings, shall I say. And also because, at the moment, I don't want to get too political, but because the political party are not being parallel with the doctors, it's very hard for us to control this with little help we're getting if the government's not helping us. So if they're saying one thing and we're as experts are saying another, I mean, I'm not sure, it's just been a really difficult time. I think as a nation on the whole, I don't like to be too negative. I know like we see stuff in the media, what people are not self-isolating, etc. I think it's been overall, because I'm a positive person, I think everyone's done really well. I mean, it's been really hard for everyone, I'm sure, especially children being at home, their education's affected, and also their parents and their family. It affects the whole household. And I can't imagine how stressful that actually is. So I think everyone's done really well, and we should be really proud that as a nation, we've really tried our hardest in this time with what we've been given. Certainly from a psychiatrist point of view with my patients, it's been a bit odd, actually. So we've had a bit of a wave. So initially it was very quiet because we have over a 3.5-year waiting list in our clinics. It's such a busy one. So it was a bit quiet. People were handling it quite well, with the pandemic. There was, I think they were managing. And then the pressure really got to all of us at one point. We've all cried at some point, and I never cry at work because you have to be a robot. But I did have one day, and it was when I was recording for Channel 4. And I completely broke down because there were no doctors. It was just me. There was no PPE. I had a patient who wanted to kill themselves. I spent 9 hours with them. I was feeling really stressed. And it was a Friday, everything happens on a Friday. And I just thought, wow, we literally are cattle to the slaughter here. No one cares. And we're on our own. So that day was really hard. And especially when I was recording for Channel 4, it really made me... They recorded at a time that was really stressful, shall I say. And then, some patients have handled it really well. Like, I'm really proud of them. Some of them have just really embraced this time. They're volunteering at the food markets. They're really helping. They feel like there's a sense of community, which has given them purpose, which is fantastic. Some, obviously, I think it's really triggered organic psychosis and true mental health. So we've very much seen emergency mental health and true mental health, I say. And when I say true, I mean organic, not by drugs or alcohol. This is pure mental health. And certainly in the last week, since the whole political issue with Dominic Cummings, we've actually seen a massive influx of patients coming in. So across all the board in surgery, A&E, psychiatry. So we're now going up a hill at the moment with loads of, because I think people are going back outside. They're not self-isolating, and people are now wanting to get the help that they need. But I'm very concerned, I have to say, for the staff well-being. We've given up all our annual leave in order to help in this time because staff have gone off sick. And now I think, staff are really going to need a rest. And when is that going to happen? So I'm very concerned, when everything happens for everyone else, they'll go back to reality. But for us, we're going to have to deal with all the influx that we're having to put on before COVID, during COVID, and then for staff as well and their well-being. So it's been a weird time. It's been a very weird time.
And how did you, what motivated you to kind of get into the field of psychiatry? And and in that kind of journey, at what point does acting come into it? And you're like, actually, I've got this other passion of mine that I want to take up. And so, I mean.
How does that happen?
Yeah, how does it happen?
I mean, my journey is a bit of an odd one. So I always wanted to do acting. That was always, and that was going to be it. But when I was growing up, I was really bullied. I was really shy. I didn't have great self-esteem. And if I'm being realistic, there wasn't anything for British Indian women. There was Bend It Like Beckham, one film, and that was it. And I just thought, I really liked the academics. Why didn't I get some life experience, grow up a bit, get confidence, and I'll reassess this later. Yeah. So I did philosophy and I did medicine, and then I became a doctor, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And actually, I really fell in love with surgery. So initially I was pursuing surgery because I'm quite a practical person. I like to keep busy. And then it really happened by chance. It was actually a psychiatrist who said to me, I actually think you'd be a great psychiatrist and not a good surgeon. I was like, what? No. So I had a year before my applications for surgery opened. And then in that year, I thought, why don't I just try psychiatry? Why not? And then the very first day, it sounds so cheesy, but it was like I was meeting my soulmate. It was the weirdest thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, how have I never thought about this? And I've fallen in love with it. And I've not looked back, and I've stuck with it. And then about 2 years ago, I got in a stage in my career where, I was at a time where I could balance life and myself and work really, really well. And I was at a place in my career where I felt I could bring in other passions. So I started the Secret Psychiatrist, and it was writing. So I was writing for magazines, articles, and I wrote it under the Secret Psychiatrist because I was really reflecting on that doctors themselves, some of my friends, they're too scared to come out if they have mental health. They're really worried their patients won't respect them. Yeah. And I was really I was really intrigued by that. Lots of the doctors don't come out if they're gay or if they have bipolar or if they're under therapy. And I just thought, why do we feel the stigma when we work in the field? So I kind of started it as a voice for all of us, patients, the nation, and doctors. And then I went back into acting just naturally, and I went to acting school. And then last year I was like, you know what, why didn't I just start making my own stuff? So I wrote a play, and it was about mental health, and I directed, produced it, acted in it. And I was like, I felt like I found myself again, and that theatrical dramatic person. Then this year I've managed to balance, still working as a doctor. Now I've got my films coming out. And it's just expanded. Like now I'm a director for some production companies, and now people want me to come on to write for mental health films. So it's been, I don't know, I'm just kind of going with it, but I certainly feel for the first time, I feel like I'm myself, with acting and being a doctor and combining it. So it's worked really well, but I've just taken my time.
And on that note, I saw your short film, Lovebug, that you'd recently released on YouTube. Really hilarious, like the chemistry between you and your co-star. Like, how did that kind of come about? And you're quite quick off the mark, I think, because obviously, like the pandemic and isolation is still effectively going on. So, I mean, how quickly did you pull that together?
So what happened was, so obviously in the medical world, you're kind of aware of what's going on before the public are. So my friend, she's Chinese, and she was working in Malaysia, and they were kind of going through the mask situation way before Britain was, and it wasn't anything, Britain at that time. And she was getting really stressed out. And so I was talking to her, and I was like, what's going on? And we've been aware of COVID in the literature, like there's a mention it, on the foreground. And I was on the tube, so I'd spoken to her, and I was on the tube, and I remember this so clearly. So I was going to meet a friend of mine who's a director, and we were writing a feature, and I was on the tube, and it just came to me. I thought, how hilarious would it be if you have a one-night stand, you know, you wake up and you have these symptoms of COVID and have to self-isolate together for 14 days and you can't, you know, one of them can't stand you. And I was thinking of it with my friend in mind because it was an issue there. And I thought, and so I just thought this would be really funny. And also I had an inkling it was going to become very big. It was going to become a pandemic. And I thought, let me make this for myself and my friends who are doctors, because I think they're going to need it at the moment abroad. And so I got the idea, I met the director and I was like, forget the feature film. I want to make this sketch. I think it'll be really funny. I wrote it in that day. And then we got everyone together within 5 days and filmed it. It came together so quick. And then literally it was just like weird. Then a few weeks later, you know, we went on lockdown. So it was just perfect timing. And the thing is, I think in this time of stress, you have to laugh. You know, you've got to have humor. Otherwise, it's going to be so difficult to get through. And certainly everyone that's watched it has really appreciated it, because sometimes you forget to just, you know, go with the flow and be a bit lighthearted. And I know it's very serious and I know that, but especially in my field of work, if you don't step back and have a chuckle, you're not going to get through. So, you know, it came at the perfect time, and then we released it on YouTube, and then we've just been sending it to colleagues at work and things like that to just kind of help people through this time. But it's done shockingly well from a little tube ride. Now it's going to festivals, even though it's a little sketch, but it's really weird how these things happen. Like,
yeah, it's interesting. Do you, I guess, in kind of in your writing, then how are you able to successfully sort of bring in your experience and expertise as a psychiatrist and that sort of clinical perspective into these characters, be it a rom-com or your next film that you're working on, Phantoms, and how does that affect how you write your characters and their experiences?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, I write naturally and honestly. So what I mean is, if we take cinema, Joker, Shutter Island, I love these films. However, that is not mental health. That is the extreme, you know, rare case. And that never happens day to day. So when I write, I guess I just write normally how I would as myself, but because I think it's ingrained in me, you know, about knowing about mental health, it just comes out naturally. And I think what it is, I try and write truthfully about, you know, whether it's the physical health like COVID or it's the mental health, I try and write truthfully so people relate to it and normalize it. And I think when you normalize something, it's not such a big deal. And then people can find natural humor in it, or they can naturally sort of relate to it much better than if something's very dramatic that you see in cinema now. So with COVID, it was just making fun of the everyday, like, you know, of the situations. Like if you watch COVID, you know, things that happen, you know, these are just natural things, but it's just highlighting that. And I think that makes it funny, you know, real characters, real people. I'm very much that needy girl when I was growing up. You know, if I had a crush on a guy, I would be all over him thinking we're going to get married. So it was just making fun of, you know, our flaws as people. And especially like with the theatre show I did last year, it was about a nurse in the NHS and how, you know, it was just making fun of people I know and like how we all are, stereotypes, you know, sometimes, and just having a bit of humor about it. And Phantoms is very different because it's not a comedy, and I'm naturally a comic. I think we all are in some way. But Phantoms came about because, so in mental health, there's a big conversation at the moment about maternal mental health, so pregnancy and mental health, and it's becoming a huge topic because there's not enough resources and guidelines about it. And it's becoming a big thing now with, you know, with men's mental health, paternal mental health. So initially, I was thinking it was going to be a man, like paternal mental health, so a father going through postnatal depression or something. And it ended up just changing beautifully in a couple of hours when I was talking to the director when I pitched it, because I really wanted to combine a lot of things. So one, I'm a big advocate for diversity. And when I say diversity, I don't just mean colour. I don't just mean gender or sexuality. I mean disability in any way, because we all have physical health and we all have mental health. People won't even admit it, but you do. So it ended up becoming this thing where I wanted to highlight, you know, mental health in pregnancy and also these other factors. And then it just came together so well when I was talking to the director, and we ended up, and it wasn't the plan, it just happened organically. And we've had really good support about it, where it's going to be 3 BAME women, all of different races. It was going to be about women in pregnancy with mental health. It was going to have LGBT, because you never see a film with an Asian woman in LGBT, right? I've never seen it. And I was like, why? Like, why is that? Like, it's so strange to me, because I know so many people, you know, in the LGBT world, and I don't know why this is not normalized in film. And also, as an Indian woman, I haven't met one, and I can't believe this is true, not one Asian woman who is gay. Like, why? Like, what is that? And I think people are so stigmatized still, especially females. And like, there's a lot of talk about, you know, men's suicide and men's mental health, which is fantastic. But I never hear about women's mental health in the ethnic minority community ever. And I'm a psychiatrist. And I just thought, why is that? So let's bring that in. And then we thought, you know, let's make it, it's a cinema film. Let's make it a modern horror. So we kind of combined all these different themes so beautifully. And we're so lucky that people just connected with it. So Shazia Mirza, like, she's been on Jonathan Ross, Loose Women.
Great comedian. Hilarious.
She's hilarious, right? Right. And I was like, she wanted to be in it. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, this is a role model for women and, you know, all creatives. And she wants to be part of this because it just highlights so many different things. And the thing is with me, I want to break mental health, LGBT, gender, and ethnic stigma on screen, but make it a good film. Not just, you know, when people think, oh, it's a mental health film, oh, you know, doze off. No, this is a film you'll want to see anyway, but it also highlights these truthful topics.
And in previously, you kind of mentioned Joker and Shutter Island as good films, but as being very extreme examples of kind of showcasing mental health in the film sort of world. And I wondered, are there kind of more films or TV shows that have kind of portrayed mental health journeys particularly well with sort of care and consideration?
So there are, but I can't name them yet because they haven't been released. So there are some amazing films that are coming out from filmmakers that I know. And I don't know if this is a year of mental health films, but I've just come across them and they're absolutely brilliant, but they're coming out. So I can't say right now. With TV shows, I tend to avoid watching TV shows with mental health because it's always dramatized in some way. And I tend to avoid that, but I haven't yet come across one. There's a couple, like, I want to watch, I think, is it Normal People or Normal Life or something like that? I should know, sorry. I've heard some reviews about it, and I think it touches on mental health. So I really do want to watch that because I think they normalize it. But there are some films where they're coming out, so I'll just bear with me and then they'll release it,
kind of, I guess, digging deeper, then I guess as filmmakers, writers, or creatives, I guess, where do you draw the line in terms of having, I say, a creative license to write something, create something of your wildest dreams, and still having a solid, I guess, base of ethics or morality to kind of be considered in how you write about someone's experience? Is that can both go hand in hand, or do you think, you know, one needs to be considered, or how does how do those two sort of play into each other?
I think that's a great question. I think because I'm not solely creative, I am a doctor, and with that comes an oath, you know, to be morally correct and ethically correct and be honest. So I'm very conscientious of that, actually. So, you know, with Phantoms, I make sure I follow, you know, the actual truthful symptoms, the treatment and management, and the NICE guidelines. So NICE guidelines are what we as doctors use to treat and manage patients. So I make sure whatever I put out there is actual facts. It's not, for instance, with Lovebug, if I was like, you know, because they have symptoms of COVID, I don't put a symptom there that you wouldn't have in COVID to make it dramatic in the film. I'm
Yeah.
very truthful about it. And I think with me, I think it's a responsibility. I am still, end of the day, those that follow me in my work, they're following me as a clinician in film. They're not following me as a pure filmmaker. So I do understand that responsibility, and I'm very cautious. Even when I did my podcast, and we've gone to Parliament with it, like I've gone to the BBC, like we've got great respect from it. I do it with 2 service users who have mental health. So I'm very aware, and I make sure, it's work that I know my own patients, because we have 2 that have mental health that agree with what I'm talking about. So it's all about communication with people that have mental health as well, and to make sure I'm not crossing the line just to get an audience to go, ooh, because that's for me ethically wrong. So anything I do and anything I put my name to, I make sure I'm proud of it. Just as when I'm treating my patient, I'm proud that I'm doing all I can. So I make sure I do the exact same in filmmaking. I'm not sure if that makes me an exciting filmmaker or not, but certainly it, for me, I wouldn't be able to go to bed at night thinking I've just released something and it's not honest.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't sit well with me.
And on that note, you are currently crowdfunding, if I'm correct, for Phantoms. So if people wanted to kind of support the crowdfunding, where can they go? How can they check the project out?
Oh, thank you for asking. So we're 80% funded, which is amazing. We have 2 weeks left. So if you're on social media, you can either go on my page and you'll find it, which is at the Secret Psychiatrist on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram pages, phantoms_film. And we have really nice perks because I think because we're such a small production team, like we're making a premiere, we're inviting all our supporters and donators to it. You can be in the film credits, you can be a producer. So we're trying to do perks if you donate. So every donation you get something, and we wanted it to be something that we would want if we were like paying someone for crowdfunding. So stuff that we're excited about. So yeah.
Cool.
Even if you can't, support mental health. Yes.
Well, Dr. Parvinder Shergill, thank you very much for coming on to the Big Picture Film Club. And we'll be sure to check out your films soon. And we look forward to Phantoms. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cool.